I have survived the West Virginia wasteland, and I have quite the story for you all. So yes, in this video, I'm going to be talking about my experience with Fallout 76, and also most notably the new things that you guys need to know. Has this game improved from what we have been hearing from the gameplay event at the Greenbrier? So yeah, we heard, about the frame rate issues. We've heard about other things about this game. And I'm going to be talking about what it was like to kind of experience this game and running into random players. And is it really a good multiplayer experience? What about solo play and stuff like that? But most notably, some of the improvements that I actually witnessed myself over hearing, about the gameplay event. But yeah, let's dive into this. Talk about what worked, what didn't work, all sorts of stuff. But welcome back, my fellow Vault Dwellers and Wasteland Wonders, to Open World Games. And let's dive straight into this. So yeah, like many of you with Fallout 76 and this beta, I know you guys were waiting around, counting down until the beta launched. We were all extremely nervous. And I thought for sure this game was not going to work at all. I'm just going to be honest. I thought there were going to be constant disconnects and stuff like that going on with this game. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. I had one disconnect during the whole game, and then I was still somehow connected to the random player I met in the game. I'll describe that in just a moment. That's actually really cool. But I was also initially worried that other players would ruin my time with Fallout 76, and I'm still kind of worried about that, of course. But I'm going to be talking about what it was like for me meeting up with random players as someone just going into this game and, my first experience. So yeah, I, of course, booted up the game, ventured out into the open world from the vault, and I ran into my first player who was challenging me immediately. But they waved to me, and we waved back, and then we kind of ventured together and went on our separate ways, of course, and then tried to move towards that main objective, which was find the Overseer's camp. So let's get into, first of all, what I actually liked about the game. So yeah, the game actually ran better than I thought it would. Of course, there are still jitters, especially when you get into, areas that are more urbanized, more city districts, I guess you would say, or towns. As you approach this town here, you may notice some jitters. But I think it's definitely been improved from what I'm seeing over the Greenbrier gameplay that we have seen. So there's still jitters in the game, still those frame rate stutters. I hope they work on that. But overall, I was kind of like, this is running better than I thought it would. I thought it would be running much, much worse. But here's an example. So, you guys know that from the Greenbrier event, the top of the world, as it's known as, is a really big ski lift type facility here. And this is how it runs. So, it basically jitters when you get in here. And then you can move up as you go. And then it will jitter one more time and kind of load up. It's kind of stuttering for everyone, by the way. Everyone was experiencing that same stutter at the same time. But once you get into this, realm, I guess you would say, or sphere of this top of the world, of this location, it kind of starts to stabilize. And that was the experience going through this game. Once you hit certain districts, you would get a jitter, you get that stutter, then you would enter, and then it would kind of stabilize, and you can go about your business exploring. And we actually bump into this rad scorpion here in just a moment. And these are the random guys I ran into. Shout out to Fearing Saturn, and I think it's Mark Star Sounds. I believe that's what it is. But yeah, had a blast with these guys, like for real. Like I ran into them randomly. And that was something I was really worried about. And I was using mics and stuff like that. And they were also using their mics, which was great. And we were just talking it up and having an absolute blast. And they sound like in my age group as well. So yeah, get your mic on with this game. I do encourage it. You may run into some brand new friends. I added them to my friends list. And I hope to continue playing with them in the beta as well. Maybe we could add even more to our group as well. But it actually worked. So grouping up really did work out pretty well. Now, something I really did like is a lot of you guys are, of course, worried about the story in this game and the lack of NPCs and stuff like that. That's still a concern for me in the long term. Of course, this is my first initial impressions. But I noticed myself kind of getting into the holotapes and being quiet and really listening to the backstories. I think part of it was because the voice acting was really well done and their stories were quite interesting. And it started really reminding me, and you probably heard this one, of BioShock. So that's what I started feeling with the game more and more as I played with it. But I do hope that down the road they could consider adding NPCs. But man, I was just having a total blast just experiencing the wonders of this new wasteland, if you would. There's always something to do in this game. As you can see, my log over here, my quest log is pretty full over here, and there's always some sort of random event to participate in. They're not all the same, which is great. You may stumble upon suddenly a random event that tells you that there's some sort of zombie horde that you need to take care of, ghoul horde that you need to take care of, and you're like, should I really do that? And you're like, yeah, sure, I got this. And we actually ended up doing that, and it ended up being a legendary ghoul, like 3 stars. And that was quite the challenge, taking them down. You think you could take them down, but man, that was quite the challenge. And then you'll be facing off against super mutants the other moment while guarding, some robot that's trying to hack into some sort of facility and doing stuff like that. But yeah, that was one really fun example of the game. Another example is this game has a habit of having your playthrough very unique to other players. That's something that we were constantly stumbling upon. Like, my buddy here would find a sniper rifle that I just did not have because it was out in the locker room, the police station. And I would be like, man, I missed out on that. And then another one of my friends here ended up finding an SMG, and I was like, wait, what? You found an SMG? That's like the one weapon I wanted. So it gave this sense of like, man, I gotta get out there in the world. I gotta find this stuff. This is so unfair. So that was one thing that I found really cool, is that sense of trying to get out there. The constant carrot sticks that were presented in this game were really great. You would stumble upon bunkers and stuff like that. Top secret bunkers that you could not get to simply because you didn't have the hacking ability or something. A safe that was there, but you just didn't have the lockpicking skill. And you were like, man, I've got to keep ranking up. So there was definitely like this addicting nature to this game, and it didn't hurt that the world was absolutely huge. Now, in my case, they got the special weapons and stuff like that, but I had quite the story. I got to find like this requisition tape. It was a government requisition tape in a random mailbox, and it could call in airdrops and supply drops out of radio antenna. I was like the only one that had this pretty much in the server. No one was calling in supply drops. So I told these guys this. I'm like, I need circuit boards to get this up and running. We went to the antenna. They were like, oh, really? You can call in supply drops? They were like kind of blown away that we could do this. And that was really fun. That sort of thing, that sort of mystery of what would happen when we call in the supply drop. No one else was doing it. So that was really cool for sure. Another big bonus to this game is the variety in creatures that we kept running across. I mentioned the legendary ghoul hordes. Of course, you got super mutants, and you got tons and tons of creatures. We didn't even scratch the surface. I felt like we didn't even find like Mothman and these legendary boss creatures and stuff. So I'm extremely curious to see, what awaits us in this wasteland as we keep venturing forth. Then, of course, you got to consider the power armor and things like that. But yeah, I want to get back into the beta. It's quite obvious that I'm waiting for Bethesda to get the servers back up and running, please, because I think a lot of us just want to get back in. Now, let's move on and talk about what I really did not like. So, one thing that did happen is my group would end up moving on without me. That probably because I was kind of slow with choosing perks. Whenever I leveled up, I would really focus on choosing stuff. But what happened was they would move on to another event or kind of miss what was going on with that event. So I think if you're with the group, communication is key, and you can't really sometimes move at your own pace. You got to consider your group as well. But in solo play, that's not an issue. So you got to consider what you want to do there for sure. And I didn't stay in solo play that long. That's what was surprising, is I bumped into. I was immediately like, hey, I got to get my mic on. I got to talk to these guys. I got to see if this will work out, and it did. Another thing that could be, potentially ruining the experience for you if you are playing with the group is you know, that sense of threat is kind of taken away because players can steal your kills. They can steal that challenge from you. But overall, it was still pretty challenging. You know, we were reviving each other, really constantly worrying about that, and taking on even, again, those legendary creatures. And that was tough. I'm going to get some gameplay up of that down the road, but that was really tough. Also, on one occasion, this was funny at the moment. Like, I ran into a player that was just singing a song, you know, the country road song, and at first I was like, that's hilarious, but I could see how that type of thing could grate on your nerves if that keeps happening over and over again. So, yeah. But the total sense of loneliness could be a problem also when you aren't playing with other players. So you got to consider that. But this is the Wasteland. It kind of feels like BioShock in that regard if you are playing by yourself. And, you know, the other Fallout games. Of course, you got to consider there's no NPCs. Now, I am going to talk about the technical issues. There are still those technical issues that are in the game. They got to work on those, you know, frame rate issues. I stepped up to a Brahmin. Its textures were not loaded at all. It took a good 5 seconds for the textures to completely load. Same thing happened with, you know, some grass textures and stuff like that when you are in the more urban areas. So they got to work on the technical issues. I could see that kind of taking away from the experience if that continues, but this was the first time I did get to play the beta. Now, one thing I did know is the inventory is pretty clunky. So I know you guys have heard that before, but it's definitely the case in this game. So that's going to be a problem. I think they need to address that. That has to be addressed. They need to be able to sort stuff in this game. So I need to be able to go in my inventory, sort by food, water. Also need to be able to sort by items that will take away radiation, rat away, and stuff, instead of digging through items. Because I found myself, also what would happen in the game is that I would level up, I would complete something, I would be rewarded with a bunch of items. And those items would quickly pop up on the screen. They didn't give me a lot of time to review them. I would like the ability to review those items. But what would instead happen is I would have to go digging through my inventory and really try to figure out what's new in my inventory. What did I just earn? I don't know if there's a proper log system that tells you what you just earned or not. I'll have to look. I did look for it. It's kind of hard to find. So I think they need a better tracking system for quest items that you just received. What else can I talk about? Also, yeah, you know, I did get to level up. I did get to experience that in the game. And one thing that I was kind of bummed out by is the fact that you still cannot see the perk cards laid out. You can't plot and plan really because of that. So I think that it would be nice to be able to see the cards in some way grayed out, at least under each special. So like strength, I want to see all the grayed out cards that I still need to obtain, and at least be able to know what I could do with my build down the road. Also, one thing I did notice is the game definitely felt too dark at times. You know, I was always waiting for it to turn to daytime, and you can't really progress time in this game. Sleeping doesn't work the same, so I found that to be kind of a pain in the butt personally. I hope, I don't know if they should limit the nighttime a little bit more. I'm not too sure. Let me know what you guys think, or at least have more variety in the way you can light up the environment beyond just your Pip-Boy. I'm sure that they will, because we've seen some artwork indicating that you will be getting flashlight attachments, so that could be a thing. And then, of course, I expect power armor to have those light attachments as well. But I think the game was a little bit too dark at times, and I would have preferred exploring some of the game during the daytime. Now, there were some game-breaking bugs, like the critical was not working for our group, our entire group, and it sounds like that's kind of universal, but they hopefully they get that fixed as well. It's a beta, so I expect that to be fixed, because game-breaking bugs like that can exist, like other little bugs that we ran into and stuff like that that make the game funny. Okay, sure, I can handle those, but they really need to work on those bugs. But yeah, overall, I want to go back in the beta, so that should be a good sign. I want to get back into this game, definitely, and keep exploring. I mean, I had a total freaking blast with these guys, playing with them. I can't wait. I wish it was a 24-hour 24/7 thing here up until November 11th. But I'll keep you guys updated also when the beta will be back up and running, of course. But had a blast overall, and I'm seeing from the community here, Fallout 76 community, that everyone, for the most part, had a really good time in the beta, and you guys just want to get back in And then, of course, we have the PS4 and PC betas coming up here, October 30th. So, yeah, look out for that. But, guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned here to Open World Games for more Fallout 76 and open world gaming goodness. And I will see you guys soon enough in the Wasteland. Take care, guys.